So welcome back to the next episode. Now, finished the last novel of doing some old school checks on the rings and stuff. Happy with it. I mean, it's doing what it should do. Why shouldn't I use it? Something's niggling away in the back of the old grey matter. Bit of gut feeling. I was like, let's just pull it out. So I priced it up because obviously a big cost on these is the conrod bolts. You can't, as far as I know, is buy stock ones off. But if you're going to replace, you've got to stretch them. You do stretch them. You've got to replace them because they're stretch bolts. So a set of bolts of that is, £150–200. So you're going to spend that money, and then again it's the cost of shells, rings, etc. So we priced it up, and we're looking about £300, give or take a bit, for ARP conrod bolts. Adds a bit more strength, and new shells, rings, your big and small end, and crank seals to get us back to where we are now with the bare block, ready to paint, but put that together. So that's the option I'm going to go for. Probably a better option, but there was something niggling away in the back of my head that something just wasn't right. Sorry, I was just looking at the bolts on the back of that block for the rear engine mount. They're fine because I've already tested it. So we're going to pull the crank out, pull the pistons out, and just see if whatever was in the back of my head that wasn't fully happy was correct. So let's pull it apart. So, was I right to pull this apart? 100% yes. Gut feeling is fantastic, and hindsight is also very good. But you just see about there, dark line on mainly that number 1 and 4, probably the 2 as well. That is a very slight bit of corrosion, which will come out with a hone, which will show. But I couldn't see that when the piston was in, even from the bottom. And again, shells were all good. Crank wise, I say about VW engines don't really wear. Crank is absolutely perfect. I mean, you could polish it up. I don't see the point in the need to do that. We're looking good. That's got its line around it because that's the one that has a 360-degree oil bearing, because that's where the oil things come through. Most of the crank shells now you get all of them have got 360-degree oil bearing, so that sends oil all the way around it, not just to one of the sides, because that's the one that fills the crank as well. Conrods, big ends again. Not marginal, I've seen worse out of lower mileage engines. Again, that cleaner mark in there, that's a little bit on there. But you can also see, there's the thrust washers. You can also see how little thrust it's had. That little dark mark there and there, that's the thrust. And obviously you've got the imprint of that number on the shell as well. And then we'll move on to the more elephant in the room, which was the main gut feeling, which came true. So what was the issue? Well, piston rings. Now, I know I used the old school technique where, you know, stuff wasn't coming down, so that says, you know, the piston rings are spread out and touching the cylinder walls and not letting oil pass by, because oil will naturally get past it at some point. And before I came in the garage, this is like 2 days later, before I decided to go, right, you know, something's not right in the back of my head, I'm going to pull this apart. The oil was still sat on top of the piston rings, pistons even. So this is a good one, because we have got top piston rings are moving and the oil scraper ring is moving. You know, skirt wear, not really worried about that, because, you know, there's a couple little tricks. I will show you that when we start modifying the top of the pistons. However, that one, oil scraper ring moves, second ring moves, first ring is seized, half out. What was that? That's piston, that's 4. This is 3, which is perfect. 2, again, the top ring on this one was okay. Scraper ring was fine, second is seized. And then this one, again, you can see, you know, we've got the top ring out partially, oil scraper ring moves, and the second ring, if I can get my hand on it, just moves. So that showed us that, you know, I knew in my head something wasn't right, something was niggling away. Sometimes you've got to take your gut feeling, because you've just got to. So piston rings, okay, they checked fine with the oil not leaking past, but there was an issue with them which we found. Hey ho, we are where we are now. I'd rather do this now than you know, get later down the line and it go wrong, because that wouldn't have lasted very long as soon as you get heat in the engine. So here we are. So we've got Hastings piston rings turning up, KS crank shells, 360 bearing ones. These are actually ARP rod bolts come in, and small and big ends on these. Also, we'll pull the pistons apart, we'll take the rings off, we'll modify what we need to on the top of the piston. Then I'll show you a little trick you can do with the skirts and on the block as well, just to minimise the piston catching at the bottom. And then this all can go back in. One thing we can do as well is when we've got the engine apart, these are 10.9 crank bolts. These can be reused again, they're only like 60 Newton meters. But what I like to do, 10.9 is put a 12.9 in there, a bit stronger. You know, it's higher tensile strength, which means it's going to be stretched, and as it's going to be a boosted application, not a factory naturally aspirated engine, you're going to have a lot more force pushing those pistons down. Pistons pushing down pushes on the crank, so it's all in a way is trying to push itself out the block. So what we do, we uprate these as well. Again, they're a simple, what's that going to be, M12 maybe, but I'll check. Again, 10.9, so we'll just put 12.9 in there, high tensile, either hex heads or cap heads, see what we can find. Obviously these need to be replaced, they're stretch bolts, so we'll press those out, get the new ones pressed in, pull it all apart, get this all nice and clean, so we can then put it back in the block once we've also cleaned the block. Auxiliary shaft, we'll go for that when we get to it. Oil squirters near, so I'll pop the oil squirters out while I'm there. You know, I'm all for the case of when you're in there, do as much as you can while you're in there. So we're in there now, you know, the crank's out, the block's empty, right, let's just get everything done so we know there's nothing in the back of our head that can go, oh, is one of those squirters not cooling the bottom of the piston, am I going to mount that piston? So we'll pop these out gently with these, because you can get them there bloody hard. Obviously I've got a handful of them hanging around, so take them out and just make sure this is ball and spring there, it's not seizing, it can go through. So you know when the oil pressure's going in, it's going to the bottom of the piston. While this is all apart, I'll get the York shaft out, and then we'll literally just gut the block, clean the block out, get it all nice and lovely and clean, and then we'll hone it as well. Turn this around. Whoosh. There you go. So again, we'll face the block, we'll get the hone in there. It's really, you can just see that dark shadow. Then it's not a lot, you can't really feel it with your finger, as in pitting wise, but you know, that was sat underneath the piston, which I couldn't see. Like I say, you look at the shine down there, they're all nice and shiny, it doesn't look bad, you know, but over time, that, even though you can't feel it with your hand, that will be catching the piston rings and will cause accelerator wear on our new expensive piston rings. So here we are, that's where the block is now. So we'll magically clean all this off while there's a mess on the floor, hone those out, spray them clean, then that's the block ready to put back together. We'll also, again, while the block's apart, we'll pull those core plugs out and replace those, just again for the sake of it. It costs about £2 maybe. While we're in this deep, let's just get everything done so we know there's nothing in the back of our head going, oh, is there someone else niggling away? Which there was, turns out in this case, piston rings. But hey ho, you know, I'm all for doing stuff on a budget, but when something's in the back of your head, you've got to go with your gut feeling, and we were right, so that's good. So we're going to start honing the block. We've got our oil squirters out. Now, this is the later type ones on like the 9As and stuff, where you've got, you know, that housing with a hole through it, literally a straight hole, and then you've got oil pressure goes in there, moves that ball, and then the oil squirts onto the cylinders. Now the older type is a complete unit, so the ball and springs in the end there, so these are a better unit, and they're also easier to get off because they're a simple focus, a simple Allen key. So they're all off. I've got one piston because we just marked out where to machine it to, so now we're just going to hone the block out. Now they're not that bad, it's just a bit of surface, so we're just going to hone them out. Again, decent quality 3-leg honer. Start off with the coarse ones, make sure these are wet, soak it in a bottle of oil beforehand, or just, you know, soak it. Wing that round. These are really good because no matter what you do, it keeps a uniform patch, and these are really long as well, so they're a good sort of, I can't remember now, 100mm maybe, so they're perfect for this. Run the course through it until you can't see any of the bits you're trying to get rid of. Once you're happy with that, go for all 4 of them, and then come back, start the other them with a fine, and then clean them up. And with the fine one, that's when you want to finish and do your cross hatching. Now the cross hatching really is, you see the lines in the ball there, that's just because I've gone over the hone in it. So the cross hatching is there for a reason, so on a microscopic level, all those scratches have got oil sat inside them, and it stays inside them, and that's what helps lubricate the balls and allows the piston rings to move up. Now once you first do this, those are actually, you know, these are peaks, so they're actually sharp points, and then the rings bed it in. So at the point it's like peaks and troughs, and then eventually once the rings are bedded in, you know, it's all flat, but you've still got that scratch in there which holds the oil, which again helps lubricate the bores and helps dissipate heat from the piston rings into the block and the coolant, and off we go. So we'll get this run through and then see how we're looking. So we've got all 4 bores. I'm really thirsty. All 4 bores have gone through with the coarse shoes. Obviously these are worn down a fair bit. We've had to work 1 and 4, a bit more 2 and 3 were fine, but we're all good now. So these shoes, you can swap them over. So we've got the next set on now. This is the fine ones. You see how big they were when we started. So again, we'll wait for the drill to charge up because the battery's a bit warm. Again, just using a cordless drill, no normal speed, bit of tension there, decent ones these. I did buy some Sealy ones, absolutely dog crap. They're like, you know, just the 4-in-1 cylinder home kit. I mean, come on, it's absolutely terrible. The longer shoes there just broke, so yeah, it's one of those, you know, it doesn't look that big, it doesn't look that small in the pictures till it turns up. You think, what a god is that? So that's going back. And then we bought this one. This is a Kennedy one from somewhere online. So okay, with a set of shoes as well. So we'll get that, we'll run that through, and then we can rinse it all back, and then I've started cleaning up the front of the block as well while the battery's charging up, so we're looking good. So we'll leave it there for the moment because you don't want the videos to be too long. Good 10-15 minutes is a nice watch. You know, from videos myself I watch. Anything longer can drag on a bit. If you want them longer, let me know, I can make them longer. So we'll come back in the next one with finishing off the block with the fine hone, wash it all out, and we can start modifying the piston. And then we should have the parts motor dock, then we can get the crank back in, get the rings in, measure the rings, get all that done, and then yeah, start moving back forward, which is good. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.